children's play in this projective technique with the experimental miniature life toys helps us understand how the world looks in their eyes. We may learn whether the private world that is the psychological environment of each child is friendly or hostile, orderly or casual, simple or complicated. This little girl uses space freely.
Here is an excessively rigid pattern of domestic organization. But this is a child who needs such order so that she can feel safe, and within it she feels free and can be creative.
This scion of a sports-loving family appropriately makes the horse thoroughly at home, even to a good hot tub. The entire collection of household furniture and doll people seems too complicated and too oppressive, and Robert goes far away with a small boat. Perhaps it is fanciful to suggest that this is the 4-year-old equivalent of leaving home to run away to sea. At any rate, let us see now what he is turning his back on.
This is the family into which Robert will soon be born. In these scenes of his family life, you must endow these dolls with the appropriate drama and action. Robert's parents are about 40 and have been married almost a dozen years. They both have professional careers.
His mother, sewing tiny garments, is a friendly, hearty woman. His father, more reserved and wrapped up in his work. Here he is, a busy commuter, catching up on the family bills. Robert's mother says of herself that she is too tense and too busy with her job. But she adds, "I would rather be busy than playing bridge like my suburban neighbors."
The family income and small house also maintain the mother's parents. The grandfather is a nervous, thin old gentleman, often depressed or extremely irritable, and here, as usual, demanding everyone's attention. Grandmother is an infant who suffers from heart trouble.
Robert comes into an already crowded household, geared to the needs of adults, but with the compensating richness of life in a large family. Thus, a baby makes his presence more than normally felt. His mother holds him crying on her lap and is tense with the awareness of the other's disapproval.
For the mutual protection of Robert and of the adults, his mother is taking him away. An outsider knowing the situation can predict greater difficulties, more tension, and the need for more maternal intervention between Robert and the rest of the family when he is older.
At the age of about 3, Robert is banging blocks on the floor. He is a small boy bursting with a small boy's energy, and an outsider is again aware that his activity will not fit smoothly into the crusted pattern of older personalities. Robert himself is becoming dimly aware of this, and of the power he has to irritate and upset the household. Everyone in the family is fond of Robert. It is no one's fault, but it is a fact that Robert is in a tense and crowded situation.
Robert sees very little of his father except on Sundays, and attempts at relaxation are broken by Robert's insistent demanding to sit on his lap, pestering to have the funnies read to him, and so on and on. Later, a close tie was formed between Robert and his father, but not until Robert was old enough to share an interest in tools and carpentry, and the family moved to a larger house.
Robert's mother has to hurry so much. She has to rush Robert to school in the morning before her own work. She dashes home with him at noon during her lunch hour, and then hastens back to work. Robert feels this extra pressure, and it is part of the tension that he naturally resists, and which shapes his personality. The mother welcomed the opportunity to give Robert the relaxation and fun of mornings at a good nursery school from the time he was 2½.
The grandmother feels that she too should take a hand in bringing up Robert with his parents away so much. But Robert feels the erratic nature of her discipline and feels also her weakness and uncertainty.
His mother has asked her not to say no to Robert, as he is stronger than the grandmother, and she can't handle him physically.
Robert's grandfather, who died when Robert was 4, had very positive and repressive ideas about the place of a child in the family. Many children can cope with this and thrive on it. The difficulty for Robert is his grandfather's unpredictable behavior. One moment he is loving and playful, and the next moment bored or furious with Robert.
These keynotes of inconsistency and irritability have their strong effects on Robert, and one unhappy result is a mutual teasing relation between him and his grandfather. Here, Robert is stealthily slipping into the room to turn on the radio and startle his grandfather. This was repeated several times, until his grandfather completely lost his temper and spanked him.
This pattern of gradually building up to an emotional blow-up occurs often. As his teacher commented, Robert had to work hard to get stuff. There was a constant working up to emotional crises. In this scene, Robert is being put to bed by his mother, and a moment later he appears downstairs. On this occasion, which was typical of many situations, he got out of his crib 25 times until he was finally spanked and the boundary firmly set.
The maid, who is actually in charge of Robert much of the time, is blustering and ineffective. She alternates between indulgence and anger. When his mother comes home, the maid turns Robert over to her with relief and a list of Robert's misdemeanors.
Robert himself, when he is 4½, shows us how large punishment and restraint loom in his life. Now he is not turning his back on the miniature life toy version of home. Since we last saw him playing with these toys, the family situation has improved, and there is less crowding and tension. Robert himself is older and more confident.
The mommy spanks the baby who does not stay in bed. Robert shows how exaggerated the punishing aspects of life look. I'll step on the baby until he is dead. He's gone.
I'll sit on my lovely couch. Such a realistic handling of the toys suggests even more clearly that this is not mere make-believe, but a reenactment of life as Robert sees it.
We have seen the same emphasis on punishing in Robert's own anxieties, following his own real aggressions. He says sometimes in playing with other toys, "The teacher kills Robert," ascribing to the teacher the extravagant punishment that seems appropriate to him.
Here, too, the crowded home situation is reflected in the close, tight lining up of the furniture. And Robert asks repeatedly, "Is this the maid?" As though she were a very important person to him. Only maid and mommy and baby appear by name.
Consider, too, how this child's problem is complicated by the moral burden that is beyond his years to carry. From the time he was 2, his father would offer him candy when he came home at night. Robert could have it, if he told his father he had been a good boy. Here we can take part in his dilemma. He recalls that day's bad deeds. He thinks again of the candy and his father's approval. What does he say to his father?
Such a response, then, as we saw with the stick, is not surprising in a child who is both emotionally active and physically vigorous, who has been encroached upon and is therefore on his guard. This sort of open expression of hostility is frequent in children who doubt the possession of a really free life space and who are constantly testing out unclear limits of adult restriction. Robert's aggressive behavior may be understood as a strong, defensive counterattack.
With this concept of Robert's defensive counterattack on the whole world in mind, it is possible to understand the outstanding features of Robert's first year in nursery school, when he was not yet 3.
All this was reported by Robert's teacher on his first day in school, and was fully confirmed by later observation. One other characteristic that was noted in Robert's first year in school is worth stressing: a cyclic alternation between cheery, jolly, blissful days and sultry, gloomy periods of tension shown in violence or occasionally in apathy.
There was also frequent mention of Robert as timid or fearful, with a special fear of loud noises, traits which later almost disappeared, even though traces of his basic anxiety remained. Let's meet in the middle. How can my car pass? This set of projective techniques, called blocking games, suggests what children will do when faced with playful obstacles. For instance, what is the effect of the mild frustration of not quite being able to complete something you've started?
In the second game, the experimenter says, "My doll stops your car. What happens?" This child gives in completely, even enthusiastically, to the experiment.
This boy thoughtfully devises a live and let live solution.
while Robert shows us the defensive counterattack in action. He responds with extravagant violence even to a symbolic and abstract frustration like this one, because he is expressing a cumulative, displaced aggression.
Robert has an apple for the teacher, but he is no apple polisher. He is genuinely affectionate, and in addition, especially fond of his teacher.
In the light of what we have seen, we can now understand better why a consistent, dependable affection is important to him.
Robert seeks acceptance of himself, and his teacher meets his need, not for approval or kisses as a reward for being good, but for assurance that he is valued, that he is loved, regardless of his behavior, that even adults who discipline and control him do not turn against him. Like all children, he must be valued in terms of who he is, not for what he does or does not do.
Robert's teacher has helped him handle his aggressions too. We have seen how his own hostility bothers him, makes him anxious. Unlike some other children, for him there is no value in release and expression of aggression. He is too worried and afraid of himself. He needs to be stopped, and stopped without the demoralizing feeling that he is bad and unloved.
He responds to direct handling, to positive, cheerful commands. His teacher has adroitly used his own emphasis on rules and routine, and his delight in formulas. Once, for example, in Robert's third year in nursery school, he was on the verge of demolishing a boy who had bumped his block building. He stopped, took a breath. Was it an accident? If it was an accident, I'll play with you. Was it an accident?
Robert's teacher built upon his fondness for rules, and when Robert was ready, helped him toward a freedom from rules. By the end of nursery school, he enjoyed routine without being possessed by it.
He could say, "It don't matter, do it."
He needs adult attention and affection, and responds warmly to it. And his relation with his teacher, which was so important in helping him to clarity and calm, was compounded of love and affection on both sides, of wisdom and understanding, of an appreciation of Robert's warm humor and poetic and vivid turns of speech.
"I'm hot," Robert says. "I'm hot as meat in the oven." Or, "We're on a high, rocky mountain place where you can see the faraway mountains."
Little of the old compulsiveness remained, and his voice was now more serene, with almost no stutter, a good sign of increasing inner stability and clarity.
Robert's first period of strife and stress, the first adolescence of the preschool years, is coming to an end.
A year after he has left nursery school, Robert and his teacher meet again. Robert is leaving the preschool age, the age of many alternatives, the age when a boy is both over-dependent and eager for independence. One moment very mature, the next extremely babyish, sometimes boyish, sometimes girlish, sometimes affectionate and constructive, at others appallingly destructive and antisocial.
Now they are both enjoying reminiscences of undergraduate days.
Do you ever feel like doing that to your teacher? No. Do you ever feel like beating her up?
Yes.
Oh dear. Why don't you ever try it?
I don't want to. I don't want to.
But it might kind of get you into trouble. Did you ever feel like beating me up in the olden days? I bet you did.
No, I didn't.
Didn't you, Ellen?
Why do you think I did?
Well, people get cross at other people lots of times. Other times when I was cross at you.
The warmth of Robert's enjoyment of this reunion confirms our earlier impression of the importance of his teacher in his development.
And I saw her. I was on the top of the, not on the top of the third top, and those buses down there, looked like play buses.
I bet they did. What else did you see from there?
Or cars that looked like play cars.
Yeah, did you see people?
Yeah, I think I did. My man looked like play people.
Yeah. Did you see the boats in the river? Remember? Little airplane climbs higher and higher.
The balloon experiment is a projective method used to study the aggressive impulses that children carry around with them. There is no frustration and no aggression of anyone else's to which to react.
Some children who are not aggressive break no balloons at all. They are simply not interested in the idea of breaking. Other children, who are also not particularly aggressive, are like Terry. They like the fun of breaking balloons, but they are easy and casual about it.
I had a pop.
You like how they pop? Did you ever pop any? You want to pop some of these?
It has to step on them.
Is it fun to break them? Is it naughty to break them? Naughty to break them. You want to break some more?
I know that. I'm not going to break that yellow because I love yellow.
Why did you give me these pieces? Why did you pick up all of them? Why did you? You have to pick up the pieces?
Yes.
Okay. You want to break some more? All right, you can break some more.
I know that one. The biggest school in the whole world.
Aggressive children also show two varieties, at least two varieties, of behavior. One child will act as though he had been released from a gun. He will smash the balloons with gusto, with almost lustful aggression.
Ah. Did I break it?
Did you?
No.
Other aggressive children are like Robert. They continually refer to balloons in terms of breaking, but do not permit themselves to do so. The strength of their resistance to breaking suggests that they are working hard to hold in check equally strong impulses to do so.
What would you like to do with them?
Do you have anything to break it?
Well, what would you like to break them with?
If you stepped on it, would they break?
I think so. You want to try it?
No.
Why not?
I want to make a big bang.
Robert, in refusing to break balloons, shows again his old fear of loud noises, but he is overemphasizing it. He is using it as a rationalization. He uses others too, such as the expense of the balloons, and he finds ways of delaying the breaking by measuring the balloons. When the experimenter does break one, Robert is anxious and accepts some of the responsibility.
Would you like me to break one?
No! You know why?
Why?
Because I hate to use the bang though.
Is it all right if one breaks by accident?
Just can't help it.
Is that all right then?
Yes. And when you break one, I break one, I just can't help it.
Some children like to. Did you know that? Some children like to break lots of balloons.
But you know why I think it's a waste of money to break them?
Well, these are here just for breaking, so you can break any ones of these you want. And I have some more outside for later.
Can I break this one? Can I break this one? Can I break this one? Like this one? Like this one? This one?
Yeah.
Break that one? That one? Break that one? Break the other one?
Yeah.
Break my one?
Do you want to?
Break everyone?
Yeah.
Break every single one?
Would you like to break every single one?
I'd like to break one.
All right.
What is the tiniest one you think?
I think that's the tiniest one.
Well, let's measure. Let's measure. I'll take this first.
Oh my.
Woo!
What happened? Who's broke?
Yours.
It's too bad. Is it
Mine!
fun? Was that fun?
I just didn't like the noise. That mine broke, but I
Did you break it?
No, I just want to put it up. No.
It is important that in Robert's second year at nursery school, he behaved in just this way with the balloons. Yet this was at a time that Robert was at his most violent, when he was described as a naked, roaring force at home and in the nursery school. That is, he kept talking about breaking the balloons, but each time he was invited to do so, he changed the subject, invented rules, or avoided doing so.
From this, it was possible to predict a decrease of aggression, to predict the ability to keep his impulses under control, to predict the behavior that Robert began to show in the next year, ushering in the end of Robert's most turbulent days.
The actual calming down is also shown by the dramatic contrast between Robert's earlier attack on the experimenter in the blocking game and his behavior at 6.
Middle. After my car passed.
After my car passed! I want to go back. Oh, if you're a track a little, then I'll go past you. Go as far as you can possibly go.
You off the track?
Yes.
All right, now another time. Meet in the middle, and how can my car pass? How can my car pass?
Mine's stuck onto yours.
What happened?
I think I'll have to pull yours. We'll have to push.
In the spring of the year he was 7, we now see Robert smoothly adjusting to the first grade of a fine public school. Robert, as we know, values a clear-cut situation with definite, simple, consistent rules. But this is a skillfully taught class, with a teacher who knows that children are not simply vessels to be held as still as can be while knowledge is poured down their passive throats.
These children can concentrate. Watch the girls reading while block buildings crash about their ears.
In a more rigid school, too, Robert would now fit in, would be a good boy. But such a school would put on him the great burden of restraining not only his aggression, but all his healthy, outgoing energy. And this would be done at the great personal price of accentuating the compulsiveness, the overconformity, the emphasis on rules, which Robert has to an even greater degree than most 7-year-olds.
Catch your books. No. Don said, "Look, Tom, you look like me." Tom said, "Look, Don, you look like me."
And now you said you wanted to read, Sally? All right, you go on.
Same chapter.
Is it the same chapter? Perhaps you could read the next part.
Run, run, and play. Run and play. Nan looked for Skipper. Nan looked and looked. Where are you? Skipper. Where are you? Called Nan. Come, Skipper.
Can you
Nan
read so that Sally will hear you?
Nan looked in the house. Skipper, Skipper, she called. David looked in the garden. He whistled and whistled for Skipper. Where are you, Skipper? Come, Skipper, come, he called. Skipper is not in the house, said Nan.
But here is Robert, still with a great capacity for fun, still delighting in horseplay, still excitable and noisy. Is he still inflammable and quick to strike out? Ouch! An accidental kick. Will there be assault and battery as in the old days? Robert keeps a tight grip on himself. The storm is subsiding. You can see some signs of the internal battle between Robert and Robert.
Understanding, intelligent teachers, his mother's fond, firm support, more space and time for Robert at home, all these have helped him pass the turmoil of his first adolescence.
This is fun, and it supplements more direct approaches to arithmetic. Seven-year-olds are legal experts on the rules of games, and so quarrels are frequent.
Again we see that Robert keeps the peace. The conflict is arbitrated by the teacher. Watch Robert, especially his hands. There are many signs that in spite of outward control, there is still much inner tension. In fact, Robert's new teacher even thinks of him as over-controlled, as a child who is reserved and conceals his feelings, evidence of the great change in Robert.
But we know that Robert is an emotionally vulnerable child, and that what the future will bring is very uncertain. Because he is very sensitive to outside pressure, very much will depend on how calm or strained the home and school situations will be.
But we have a right to feel glad for Robert. Several paths were open to him. He might have become cruel and violent and bitterly antisocial. He might have become tense and terrified. But it looks as though he is on the right road. This is Robert.